Welcome back to the Work of Wellbeing podcast. I'm Amy Green, your host from The Wellness Strategy, and we're here to talk about all things personal and professional wellbeing. This podcast is designed to help you become curious and consider your everyday wellbeing strategies, what you do for your own wellness, and how you can start to transform your life both in and out of the workplace. Sit back, grab a cup of tea, maybe grab a notepad, a journal, and get ready to feel really enlightened about what wellbeing used to be, what it is now, and where you can take your own wellness strategy. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Work of Wellbeing podcast. I'm Amy, your host from the Wellness Strategy, here to talk about all things today around why we need to talk about problems, not just positives. So hang in there with me when it comes to this, because I know it can feel like, gosh, we talk about problems all the time. As humans, all we do is whinge, right? Complain, find the negatives. Not all of us, but it is our default. But there is a reason we need to talk about problems, not just the positives. And when I say positives, what I mean is, we're told to look for the good, practice gratitude, find 3 things that are really working well. What do we want to highlight and celebrate? And this is good for us. We need to do it. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm not saying let's be all doom and gloom. I'm definitely not saying that. But in the case of school improvement under the banner of staff wellbeing, we need to talk about the problems. We don't just need to talk about them, though, in terms of complaining or in terms of whinging. We actually need to talk about them in regards to proactive, solutions-focused ways. And when I go into schools, a lot of what I hear or see or what I notice people doing is finding things that are working well and doing more of them, like let's get more coffee vans and have more morning teas, or finding different ways to do staff shout outs or gratitudes or whatever it might be. And these things are great. They really, really are. But what they don't allow us to do when we sit in the space of always doing things that boost positive emotions is that they don't allow us to always fix the problems. They don't allow us to address the causes. And so we have this symptom approach of trying to utilize Barbara Friedrichsen's work of broaden and build around positive emotions, which is wonderful, but it doesn't tackle things like workload. It doesn't necessarily look at stress factors. It doesn't look at inefficiencies. And if you know anything about my work, I am a big believer in doing everything we need to support ourselves individually and collectively to help us thrive and flourish. But I'm also a big believer we need to talk about the problems and the stress factors and the issues and the challenges so that we can create shifts and improvements that allow us to thrive organizationally in ways that really support us to feel well, work well, team well, and lead well. And we can only do this if we can openly talk about problems, if we can openly talk about stresses, if we can openly talk about why we're overwhelmed or what workload is impacting us. And this is where it becomes a little bit more challenging, because it's not just talking about these are all of the things that are annoying me. It's actually being specific in naming them so that we can understand where these issues or challenges or opportunities might be coming from. And then we can strategically target growth, improvement, or shifts that we might want to make. So when I work in schools and I have discussions like this, I'm pretty open at saying we can't keep using words like stressed, overwhelmed, or burnt out, or high workload and too much admin. We see this in the media all of the time, but it actually doesn't tell us anything specific. And this is a problem. If we don't have specific data, we can't create specific change. And what someone finds stressful, someone else may not. What one person views as a workload that's too high, someone else may not. And so we need to start being really specific in these details and also asking, is what we're doing reasonable in its expectation? Is it clearly defined in terms of knowing what it looks like to be complete or finished? And are we given the right amount of time to be able to get this task done? We often think that more time is the answer to all problems, but it's absolutely not. This is why we need to hone in on where these issues, challenges, or stresses may lie so that we can start to ask questions like, is it really a time issue or is it a system issue? Is it an efficiency issue? Is it because we don't have clear systems or processes? Is it because people don't have the skills, or maybe they don't have the will? So where does the actual issue fit? We can only do this if we're really, really specific in the language that we use. So when we see in the media things like stressed, overwhelmed teachers, all that's doing is enforcing a really vague narrative. It's not actually helping us to identify tangible things we need to improve. What we want to do is start to challenge this. We challenge this by asking questions such as, what's causing stress? Name it, be specific, be really, really detailed in that. What's adding to the overwhelm? Where is workload too high? And we can take it one step further by asking what's not effective. Like, what are we doing that actually doesn't serve a purpose anymore? We don't know why we're doing it. We can ask things like, where are we being inefficient? Like, what's taking a lot of time that shouldn't? Where are we spending a lot of time and energy that we shouldn't really be spending time and energy? What are the stresses we constantly repeat? What are the things that we do term after term, year after year, where we're finding it a bit of a battle because we don't have clear processes or ways of working? What are the things that keep you up at night that we could perhaps change? What are the conversations you're having behind closed doors, in your classrooms, in your staff rooms when no one else is around, that if we had out loud, we could actually create some shifts around? These are the things we need to start to ask. Now, there's been a really, really big push in the last few years around school improvement through the lens of staff wellbeing. And what we see are a lot of individual strategies around how the individual can promote and improve their thriving and flourishing life. And I'm all for it. I've done all of the work and, lots of study and bits and pieces. But I actually think, I know there's new research to come out to say, if all we do is focus on the individual through boosting things like gratitude or meditation or relaxation techniques, and we don't address the cause, then we're not actually going to solve any problems. It's a co-designed strategy. It's both. It's not one or the other. And so we can do all of the in-house well-being or wellness initiatives we like, but unless we're actually looking at the root cause of things that might be impacting some of the issues going on, then we're not necessarily going to succeed. And I think in the education space, we need to apply one of my all-time favorite quotes, which comes from Dylan Willem, which is, what if every teacher decided to become better, decided to grow, decided to improve, not because they're not good enough, but because they can? That's not the exact quote, but that's the essence of it. I love that. What if we all decide we can be better or grow or learn or improve, not because we're not good enough, but because we can and we deserve to? And the only way that we can really do that in this space is actually by addressing the causes, not just the symptoms. Now, as someone who's lived through multiple different versions of what this looks like, we very, very, very significantly do need to prioritize individual strategies, especially things that allow us to boost positive emotion, that allow us to practice that gratitude, that presence, that awareness, absolutely. But I also know that it wouldn't have mattered how much internal work I was doing. If things in the workplace didn't shift, then it wouldn't have necessarily had the impact I needed it to. We've got to come at this with two ends. We really, really do. Because acknowledging and addressing issues or stresses or whatever it might be is crucial for genuine progress. That's how we're actually going to get some really, really core change in the work that we're looking to do. Now, I understand that this may be easier said than done. It can be a little bit complicated for people to speak up or to seek out or to be able to share. And this is where the work of psychological safety is crucial in being able to really foster an environment where people feel safe to do so. When we're talking about challenges or stresses, we really need to, especially if we're listening to others, understand that no one's stress is the same as someone else's. And so even though we may perceive it to be trivial or minor or whatever, we don't get to make that judgment. We need to be really objective when we hear or notice or take on other people's stresses. We need to be really non-judgmental, and we need to look at the facts. We need to look at the actual evidence behind what that is. And this is why also when we're talking about these things, we need to be specific in terms of what it is. When we sit in the space of using emotions, stress, overwhelm, to describe what might be causing or what we might be perceiving as a problem in the workplace, it makes it almost impossible to know what to do, because we default then to individual strategies for the person, rather than if someone is saying, I'm feeling really stressed because I've got multiple deadlines and I don't have time to meet them, then we can start to look at what those deadlines are. We can start to look at the timelines. We can start to look at the calendar. That is practical. That is pragmatic. That's what we can do. So whenever we're having these conversations, either thinking about it ourselves or with others, we really need to be non-judgmental around what those specifics are, because to us they might not be a big deal. Let's think about report writing. Some people breeze through it and it's not an issue, and they get them done and deadlines are met and they're really organized and they're light about it and it doesn't seem to be a stressor. Some people really stress about it and stay up all night and it causes them all kinds of pain and they meet the deadlines. And then some people are like, whoa, no one told me report writing was happening, even though it's the same time every year, and they just can't seem to get things done on time. One person's stress is not the same. Just because we find something easy, someone else may not. We find something stressful, someone else may not. So we've got to start to then look at things like this in a really pragmatic way, which is what is reasonable and expected. Are we giving the right amount of time here? Is it reasonable for us to expect this thing to happen in this time frame? And if the answer is yes, then it becomes an individual strategy, and maybe around time management or organization. If the answer is no, then we look at a whole school or a whole workplace strategy. So to do this, people need to feel safe to share. They don't want to be judged or ridiculed for something that they don't quite understand themselves. And this is where, people may feel like sharing will lead to something negative. I'll be judged. It'll be held against me. There might be negative consequences. And in the field of psychological safety, this is not what happens. This is the opposite. So we have to create that psychological safe environment as well for that to happen. And a really great way to do that is to just have open dialogue and active listening. So open dialogue where people are sharing, where we model vulnerability, where we talk about challenges, especially as leaders, and where we listen, which means we're not waiting for our chance to reply. We're just listening and taking things on. This dialogue then can give permission for other people to start to speak. It can also support us to look at how we might create new opportunities, how we might tackle some challenges, look for new ideas. This is really, really crucial. So in the space of we need to talk about the problems, not just the positives, this is why, we're not going to get change if we only look at the good things, and we're not going to get change if all we do is whinge about the bad things. We've got to become really clear on what they are. And we've also got to really show up with solutions. It's, whenever there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And we really want to harness and embrace that. We don't want to let the problem become the constant way of reality or the constant way of life. Just because there's a perceived problem right now doesn't mean the perceived problem is the future. It doesn't mean it's the only way. So instead of looking for adopting a program or a quick fix or, putting on another morning tea, really consider what the causes are, not just the symptoms, and start to get in there and ask these questions and have these conversations. The big picture work of wellbeing, especially in schools, really is around being prepared to do things differently and rethink differently. Staff need to feel valued and supported to do that, but we also need to acknowledge that it's not just about leaders doing the work. It's not just about wellbeing committees doing the work. It really is everyone getting involved. And this is why I think, we need to talk about problems, not just positives. Let me know how you find that. Are you someone, that constantly focuses on problems because we try and just think happy, be happy all of the time, and then disregard where we could actually make improvements? Or are you someone that balances both? Or maybe you're someone who actually gets quite caught up in problem and stays there, and then that cultivates that negative energy and it makes it really hard to see opportunity. So we want to acknowledge positives, but we also want to notice the problems and be really detailed with them so that we can seek out new opportunity. As always, if you have enjoyed this, let me know. Like, share, tag, do whatever it is you do on socials. And if you need anything else, you know how to find me. Otherwise, have a lovely night, day, evening, whatever time of day it is for you. And I'll see you somewhere soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really do hope you have enjoyed it. The information discussed today was just that, information only. It's not specific advice. If you take action following something you heard today, it's important to make sure that you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed, whether that advice be legal, financial, accounting, medical, or otherwise. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if there's anything else I can do to support your own wellbeing and wellness journey, whether it's another topic you'd like me to discuss or whether it's support in your school, workplace, or individually. And if you do know someone who might benefit from listening to this, please remember to tell them about it, share the episode with them, or suggest my Instagram, my website, or LinkedIn where they can find out more about me and what I do. And as always, I will see you in the next episode.